I've been an endurance athlete for a really long time. I don't know what it is about it, but when I'm running, I can think very clearly, and I often solve a lot of problems when I'm running.
The running community here in Missoula is amazing because we're surrounded by just this remarkable landscape that's full of trails that we can all go and explore. Running has been a presence in my life for quite a while now.
Who's the stronger runner?
Let's just say that because I'm not a PI, I may have more time to put into my running than Zach does at the moment.
Nate and I make a really dynamic team and a really well-paired team, and that we have pretty different perspectives. We have really different backgrounds.
So we work on a number of projects together, but one of our biggest is focused on trying to understand how certain species of mouse, the deer mouse, can live on the tops of some of the highest mountains in North America.
Anybody that's run on a mountaintop knows that that's a hard thing to do. The harshness of an alpine environment for a mouse is especially profound. As a runner, I'm inherently curious about what limits performance. There are these parallels with kind of the challenges that I'm facing when I'm running, and then a mouse that's living on a mountaintop. We're both in oxygen debt.
As a lab, the Chevron lab is really focused on understanding adaptations to high elevation environments. But in order to really understand those high elevation environments, we have to be able to put them in the context of all of the other places that deer mice live. The really fabulous thing about deer mice is that they're everywhere. But because they have such a broad range, what we see is that wherever they are, they've become locally adapted to their environment. And so that gives us then the capability to really compare what it is that's different about the mice that are up on top of the Colorado Rockies in comparison to the mice that might be on the floor of Death Valley.
So how we go about answering those questions are the same way you'd answer those questions in an elite athlete. We basically study these animals' performance in a variety of ways. We can measure how frequently a mouse breathes while it's doing different activities, how deeply it breathes. It turns out that the high and low altitude mice, one of the biggest differences between them is how they breathe. And that was not something we expected. So if we see that high and low altitude deer mice differ in physiology, does that really matter for their survival? That's the question Nate asks. He's been taking some of the lessons we learn in the lab and taking those back to the field.
When we first go up to our really high elevation study site, the students I'm bringing along, they're like, oh yeah, I hike, I'm fit, this is good. And then they get up there and the wind's blowing and it's 30 degrees and they can't breathe. And it's that moment, I think, where everybody starts to go, you know what? Deer mice are pretty cool.
When I explain the kind of research that we do, sometimes the value isn't always obvious to people. But the fact is, our work on deer mice often leads to unexpected or unanticipated discoveries. These discoveries can change the way that we think about the limits of human performance or human health.
Research doesn't have to be directed at solving a specific problem, because if you have a narrow focus, it can limit the possibilities that you might consider. Just trying to understand and discover how the world works can point you in unexpected directions.